56% of Americans feel like they're behind on retirement savings, including 37% who feel significantly behind. So in this video, I'll explain how beginners could easily catch up even with little to no savings, walk you through which accounts to set up and where to invest your money, and help you avoid the biggest mistake that I see new investors making. So make sure you watch all the way to the end, because if you make this mistake, then all of your efforts will just go to waste and it just won't mean anything. But first, did you know that nearly 50% of Americans have less than $50,000 saved for retirement and 25% have nothing saved at all? So that means if you save $1 right now for retirement, you're better off than a quarter of their population. And it makes you realize that it's kind of a sad reality, because that means many people just aren't preparing for their retirement for whatever reason. But I'm hoping with every video that I make, I could help to bring that number down. So if you are one of the 25%, then you're already making a big step by watching this video. So lesson number one is that you're not actually too far behind everyone else. But the funny thing is that the next step actually requires you to scrap lesson one entirely. And that's because what if I told you you're not actually in a race against anyone else besides yourself? And I like this quote that goes, "Flowers don't compare themselves to flowers next to them. They just bloom." And I think the concept of catching up is already flawed, because one, you're not actually racing against your friend Bob and his retirement savings. And it's not like whoever has more money at retirement wins the other person's money. And two, the idea of catching up already implies that you're already behind. So you're starting off in a losing position, which means you always feel this unnecessary anxiety to beat Bob. And you might also risk your money in an aggressive investment to try and close that gap as soon as possible. Like it's all or nothing. And I can tell you now that the negativity of catching up never really helps anyone in the long term. So lesson number two is to remember that retirement saving isn't a race, so there's no catching up to do, and you're the only participant here. Is that sad or lonely? I don't know. Now here's where it gets a little bit more practical, and if it gets confusing at all, you could just comment down below with any questions that you might have, and I'll help to answer as many of your questions as possible. Now I'll break this down into two levels depending on your comfort level. For level one, you want to maximize your returns by contributing to your employer's retirement program, because most will match your contributions in order to encourage people to save. And the program is called 401k with for-profit companies and 403b with nonprofits. And a typical example is where your employers will contribute 50% of your first 6% of your contributions, which basically means if you contribute 6% into your 401k, your employers will match 50% or 3%. Another example might be 100% match on your first 3% of your contributions. So if you contribute 3%, your employers will match 100% of that, which is 3%. So to make it as simple as possible, you just want to contribute whatever that percentage of the contribution is. And that's usually anywhere from 3 to 6% in most cases. And you do this by going to your employer's HR portal online and setting up your contribution that way. And then going forward, you'll automatically contribute 3 to 6% of your pre-tax income every time you get paid. And then your employers will basically reward you by matching the same amount into your retirement account. And then from there, it's very important to know that you actually have to invest into a fund after you contribute into your program. Once you contribute into your 401k or 403b, you actually want to invest into a diversified fund like a S&P 500. And there are other variations of the S&P 500, so I'll put that in the screen now. And for level two, if you want to contribute more to your retirement account, you can actually open up a Roth IRA and contribute up to the annual limit, which is $7,000 for those under the age of 50 and $8,000 for 50 and above. And then from there, you want to break it up to how often you get paid. So if you are under 50 and you get paid every 2 weeks, you contribute $269.23 every paycheck, and you could have this money pulled automatically from your bank account straight into your retirement account. And if you are above the age of 50, then you'll contribute $307.69 every 2 weeks to hit your $8,000. And often these accounts will limit how much you can contribute up to the limit, so you don't have to worry about over contributing. And you could do this by opening up a Roth IRA via Betterment, where they'll automatically invest the money for you. And I'll put it down a link down in the description below that you could use to open up your new account. And I find that this is the easiest for anyone who's just getting started. And once you click on that link, they'll walk you through how to open the account. And again, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And if you want additional help with all of this, you could also sign up to my one-on-one coaching sessions where I could just help you walk you through all of this. I'll make it as simple and easy as possible. So at the end of the day, with these two levels, you contribute anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 in any given year. And honestly, that's great for anyone who's just getting started. And then you could just kind of build up from there. So the lesson 3 is just use retirement accounts to 1, get your employers to match your contributions, to get free money. And number two, pay less in taxes using Roth IRA and 401k. And there's this one big mistake that could just totally mess up your retirement savings. And here's what it is. Now let's imagine you own a $1 million house outright without any debt or mortgages on it. And you're just having some breakfast with coffee when all of a sudden you check your phone and then bam, the value of your house dropped by more than 30% and now it's worth $700,000. A, do you panic and sell your house right now and start packing your bags to move? Or B, do you just ignore this because you're not even in the market to sell your house for at least another 10 years? And who knows what the value of your house will be then? So the correct answer here is option B. And I mean, it's a silly example, but when you change this example from a $1 million house to a $1 million stock portfolio, many people actually pick option A, where they start to panic sell their stocks in the fear that it'll drop more. But if you're invested into a diversified fund like the S&P 500, then the drop will be temporary and it will bounce back over the long term. For me personally, my first big market crash was in March of 2020 when my portfolio dropped by 30%. And although it was tough to see my numbers going down so much, I expected a drop to happen sooner or later. So I was at least mentally prepared. So just like you would have picked option B to ignore the market crash, the only thing you should do is to leave your portfolio alone. And for anyone who knows that they'll get antsy by looking at the numbers going down, my advice is to not check your account at all then. And it's totally fine to feel scared and discomfort, but if you give it some time, the market will bounce back, which realistically speaking could take anywhere from a few weeks up to a few years. And although that seems like it's a long time, if you are invested for 10 to 30 years, that drop will mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. But the single worst thing you could do is to panic sell because then the loss is realized, which in the previous example would have meant that you would have sold your house at that price. So lesson 4 is when the market crashes, and not a matter of if, because it will definitely happen, try to stay calm and don't touch your portfolio. Easy, right? And now that you know how to catch up on your retirement savings, there's one powerful mindset that could actually accelerate your progress even more, and that's looking poor. And in this video, I'll explain why looking poor could be one of the smartest financial decisions that you make and how this could actually change how you see and build wealth. So make sure you check out that next, and I'll see you guys over there. Peace.